What's going on, fans? My name is Matt. I'm back from UFC 114 predictions, Rampage versus Rashad. I'm going to get right into the prelim cards, and I'm going to do the whole main card and the spike prelims. First fight, Efren Escudero versus Dan Loaiza. Escudero is a wrestler, kickboxer. He's got a record of 13-1, 9 wins by way of submission. Efren is the Ultimate Fighter Season 8 winner. He's coming off the first loss of his career to Evan Dunham at Ultimate Fight Night 20 after racking up 13 wins. His first loss, came via submission. He's a tough kid. He didn't want to tap. He's got notable wins over Junie Browning, Cole Miller, and Philippe Novert. He's fighting Dan Loaiza, a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu fighter with a 12-3 record. Dan's well-rounded. His record's real reflective of that. He's got 6 wins by KO, 6 wins by submission. His most notable and most recent win, is over Bobby Green at the Affliction Day of Reckoning. Dan was featured on an episode of Tap Out prior to his Frank Latina fight, which he won via triangle. There's actually quite a bit of drama going on in this fight. Efren Escudero and Dan Loaiza are friends, and then on another front, there's also more added drama. Dan Loaiza on camp, including his brother Joe Loaiza, kind of split at the last minute. So Dan will be at the fights, by himself. I'm sure he'll have a couple people in his corner, but it won't be the normal people he trains with. Even if he did have his current camp, I don't think it would matter much. Efren Escudero is looking to prove that he's still relevant in the lightweight division and that he deserves to be here. So I see him running through Dan Loaiza pretty easy with a second round TKO. So my official prediction is Efren Escudero, he's going to win via TKO in the second round. Then we have our second spike preliminary fight between Dong Hyun Kim versus Amir Sadallah. Amir Sadallah is Ultimate Fighter winner. He's a Muay Thai Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu Sambo fighter. He's got a record of 3-1, trains at Extreme Couture with Forrest Griffin. He holds a black belt in Sambo coupled with a purple belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. He's got notable wins over Phil Baroni, CB Dalloway, and Brad Blackburn. His one loss is a controversial TKO stoppage to Johnny Hendricks. Very early stoppage in my opinion. He's fighting Dong Hyun Kim, who's a kickboxing judo fighter. He's got a record of 12-0-1, has a notable win over Matt Brown, TJ Grant, and Jason Tan. A lot of his other fights are against fellow Koreans. He lost a close fight to Carl Parisian, in which Matt Hughes, Randy Couture, president of the UFC, Dana White, and myself thought he all won the fight, but didn't matter anyway because Carl Parisian tested positive for painkillers, and the fight was overturned to a no contest. This is probably the toughest fight on the card to judge. They're both good judo players, Kim being a little bit better, but Amir Sadallah has great Muay Thai, and he's real slick from his back with submissions. I can see this fight going either way. I think that if somebody were to stop the other fighter, it would be Amir stopping Kim. Although I think that even though I don't think that's going to happen, I still think Amir Sadallah will win this fight in a very close fight. So I'm going to go Amir Sadallah. He's going to win via split decision. Then we're going to move on to the next fight. Welterweight fight between Diego Sanchez and John Hathaway. John Hathaway is a freestyle fighter. He's got a record of 12-0, and he's 3-0 in the UFC. He's got wins over Paul Taylor, Thomas Egan, and Rick the Horror Story. He recently trained with 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu and American Top Team. Now he trains with a little group called the London Shoot Fighters. Diego Sanchez is a wrestler, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu fighter. He's also he fights and trains with Greg Jackson's camp, and he does that form of jiu-jitsu that Greg Jackson created. I'm not 100% sure what it's called. He's got a record of 21-3. He's former King of the Cage champion. He's the original Ultimate Fighter winner in the middleweight division, coming off an absolutely destruction by the hands of BJ Penn, which snapped a 4-fight win streak. It was the first time Diego was ever stopped, and before that he had won Fight of the Year against Clay Guida in 2009 at the Ultimate Fighter 9 finale. He's got wins over Clay Guida, Joe Riggs, Joe Daddy Stevenson, Carl Parisian, Nick Diaz, Kenny Florian, Jorge Santiago, just to name a few. John Hathaway's a solid fighter. He's undefeated in the UFC and his entire career. Diego Sanchez is, I don't think he's lightweight material, so he moved back up to welterweight for his first fight. He's probably going to walk right through John Hathaway. I'm going to go Diego Sanchez, second round TKO. Then we have a light heavyweight fight between Antonio Rogério Nogueira, who is the twin brother of Minotauro Nogueira, and Jason Brills. Nogueira, obviously a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu fighter. He's 18-3. He's got a black belt, and he's won world championships multiple times in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Currently trains at the world-renowned Black House with Machida, Anderson Silva, King Mo, just to name a few. I mean, his brother Nogueira. He's top-ranked light heavyweight. He's got notable wins over Luis Kang, Vladimir Matyushenko, Edwin Deweese, Alistair Overeem twice, Dan Henderson, Sakuraba, Kai Mezger, TK, just to name a few. Brills is a wrestler. He's got a record of 18-2, and he's 3-1 in the UFC. He's a former state champion wrestler out of Nebraska. He's got wins over Tim Bosch, Red Schaefer in the UFC, and Jason McDonald outside in a different organization. Has said multiple times that he doesn't dedicate his, to training like he should, and he doesn't train as a fighter full time. Even if he did, Nogueira was going to run right through him anyway. I think Nogueira is going to stop him with a first round TKO. Then we got Todd Duffy versus Mike Russo. A lot of people have picked actually Mike Russo to win this fight. Todd Duffy, we all know from the flash 6-second knockout over Tim Hague. He's a freestyle fighter. He's 6-0, all wins by KO. Only one made it out of the second round. He's got wins over Asuero, Silva, and Tim Hague. And like I said, he had the fastest knockout in UFC history at UFC 102. Mike Russo also fought at UFC 102. We beat Justin McCulley in a unanimous decision. He's a boxer, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu fighter. He's got a record of 12, 1-1, 8 wins via submission. That was also his UFC debut at UFC 102. His only notable win is over Jason Guida, which isn't even that notable. A lot of people, like I said, pick Russo to win this fight. I think Duffy's going to dispose of him in the second round. So Todd Duffy, second round TKO. Then we have the co-main event, middleweight fight between Michael Bisping and Dan Miller. Bisping's a Muay Thai and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu fighter. He's got a record of 18-3, 11 wins by KO. He's a former Cage Warrior and Cage Rage light heavyweight champion. He's the Ultimate Fighter 3 winner. He trains at the Wolf Slayer in England with Rampage. He's 1-2 in his last 3 fights. He lost a pretty decisive decision by the hands of Vanderlei Silva. He won a dismal bout against Dennis Kang by second round TKO. Reason why I call it dismal, it was at UFC 105, is because Bisping was dominated the first round. Looked like he was going to lose the fight. He ended up catching Kang and put him away in the second round. Didn't look impressive at all. And then we all know what happened at UFC 100 against Dan Henderson. He's got notable wins over Matt Hamill, a fight which everybody knows he lost. But, win's a win. He's got wins over Chris Lieben, Red Schaefer, and Dennis Kang as well. He's fighting Dan Miller, a wrestler, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu fighter with a record 11-3. He's a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu under Renzo Gracie. He's the brother of Jim Miller. He was the last ever middleweight champ in the IFL, and he was on a 2-fight losing streak to respectable opponents in Chael Sonnen and Damian Maia, and who were the last and next contender for the middleweight belt. He's got notable wins over Matt Horwich and Jake Rochelle. I think that Bisping's probably going to put Miller away. I think if it ends early, it'll be a Bisping win. If it goes to decision, it'll be a Dan Miller win. But I think that Bisping can probably stop him second round TKO. Then we got the main event, Rampage versus Rashad. Rashad's got a record of 14-1-1. He's coming off a very boring win against Thiago Silva at UFC 108 via unanimous decision. It was his first fight since being KO'd by Lyoto Machida and losing his belt. He trains with Greg Jackson and got notable wins over Forrest Griffin, Thiago Silva, Chuck Liddell, Bisping, and Stephen Bonner. He's fighting Rampage, who is a boxer wrestler with a 30-7 record. He's got 14 KOs. He's on a 2-fight win streak and returning back after a short retirement shooting a movie. He's 8-1 in his last 9 fights. He's got notable wins over Vanderlei Silva, Jardine, Chuck Twice, Hendo, Ninja Hua, Ricardo Arona, Igor Von Chanchin, Murillo Bustamante, Kevin Randleman, and he trains at the Wolf Slayer in England. I think the only way Rashad wins this fight is if he utilizes his wrestling and pretty much does the lay and pray tactics. With that being said, I don't think he's strong enough to hold Rampage down. I want to say first round KO. It's probably not going to happen. I'm going to go Rampage Jackson, second round KO. Those are my predictions for this UFC. If you guys have any issues, go ahead, feel free to comment. I will do the remainder of the preliminary card right below here in the article. Take care.